Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision. Before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of the business. It is an Amazon FBA business created in August 2017 in the culinary, food, and beverages niches. The average monthly revenue for the business is $16,391 and makes an average of $3,064 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are an Amazon Seller Central account with one SKU, domain and all site content and files, trademark, supplier relationship, and just as a disclaimer, inventory is not normally included in the list price, but further details can be provided to active buyers. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 56421 to learn more about the business, or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So that's a brief overview of the business for sale. Let's hear from the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Ali. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you and your business. So to get us started off, can you tell us a little about your background in building and running online businesses?
Yeah, great. So actually, this was the first foray for me into e-commerce. I started looking into this kind of FBA thing back in late 2016. Before that, I was an English teacher in Korea for a little bit. And before that, I had an office job. And so I kind of followed that path. I quit the office job, moved to Asia, taught some English, and then after that started traveling and really fell in love with traveling. And I wanted to keep traveling, and I had to figure out a way to make money on the internet. And yeah, I guess nowadays that's called digital nomad. Back in those times, we don't have those kind of words. So it was just say like work online or, make money remotely or location independently. But so anyway, I wanted to explore that. I didn't want to go back home and get a normal job. And so I started exploring how to do that. And I kind of looked into different business models like drop shipping. I actually bought a course about drop shipping and started investigating that. And I kind of met some guy on the forum who used to do that. And he was helping people. And he'd actually moved on into doing FBA. And he'd actually made a course of his own. And normally people kind of caution you about like shiny object syndrome, don't bounce from one thing to the next. But I had a really good feeling about this FBA thing after I started listening to podcasts and stuff. And I took the leap into FBA, looking into that. And yeah, and so that was kind of late 2016. And by the time I kind of got up and running, it was 2017. And yeah, I've been in this business since then.
Very nice. So you chose FBA instead of drop shipping. And how did you arrive at this specific niche?
Yeah, so when I started looking into potential products, I think one of the problems I was having with drop shipping, just to circle back for a second, is that I couldn't come up with like a niche, like a low-hanging fruit that wasn't already taken. And I guess I wasn't overly creative either to come up with this like drop shipping niche that hasn't already been taken. And one of the things I found appealing about FBA is that you didn't really need to reinvent the wheel. So there were like tools out there that you could use like Jungle Scout, which is a thing I use to look for products that are already selling on Amazon and investigate them further and see if you can make your own slant on that product, make some improvements. And so that's kind of the idea. I had no kind of bias going into, what niche should I go into? I just kind of looked for products that had, like a low amount of reviews and that they were selling quite well. And then that would give me enough thing to kind of look further, like, hey, what are the existing players in here like? Is this one guy who's selling a lot and he has a low amount of reviews? Is he an outlier? Or, are there quite a few people here that don't have, a ton of reviews. So I thought, okay, get something where there's a few small players. They don't have a lot of reviews yet. So there might be some room for somebody like me to get in and make some improvements and kind of disrupt the market a little bit. And so that's kind of what I followed. I had some ideas through kind of that method. And then I ordered some samples and started looking at how I could improve what was currently out there. And then kind of found a manufacturer. At that time, they weren't exactly making what I wanted, but I did find a factory that was they were already starting to make something that I was looking, so it was kind of came together nicely that way. We weren't starting from scratch, but it did take some time before that product was kind of ready. So it took me some time and eventually launched there in 2017. But yeah, it was totally based on stats. And, this Jungle Scout allowed me to find this niche. And it's a good niche. It's an eco-friendly niche. It's growing. So this is a product that people take to work and to school, and it's in an eco-friendly niche. A lot of people are kind of moving away from plastics. And so, yeah, it's a growing niche.
Yeah. So I heard a few things, and this leads into my next question. It sounds like you did well on your market research. This is an Amazon business with just one SKU, and it's done well for itself. And it sounds like you invested a good amount of time with working with the manufacturer. But I'll let you answer this question, which is, based on your years of building this business, what did you learn from this business that just seemed to work?
That's a good question. I would say, from my experience, there wasn't a lot that didn't work. It was like almost the right place, right time, right product, launched it at the right season, and it just kind of took off on its own. And I've been very lucky in the sense that I never paid any money for PPC, which is really kind of, I've been told, like almost unheard of. And so, yeah, almost everything worked. There's certainly things I can touch on, lessons learned more, and things that didn't work.
Yeah, that was actually the next question was there anything you tried with this business that didn't work?
So I think one lesson that I should have learned earlier, I think maybe I'm a little bit too nice of a guy in certain respects, maybe not all respects, but so I'll elaborate here. So with my first manufacturer, in the beginning, I had a pretty good relationship with them and things were going well. As I mentioned, the product was selling well and really things were going quite well. And then I started to have this complaint, a certain defect that started to arise. And I was getting kind of too many complaints on this for my liking. It wasn't every unit, obviously, but it was enough that it was something that I wanted to fix. And the supplier kind of assured me multiple times over a long period of time, like, hey, this time we've definitely fixed the defect. It's not going to reoccur. And instead of being like cutthroat and being like, hey, I give you one chance and you didn't fix it, I'm moving on to somebody else, another manufacturer, I kind of stuck around for a while. And by the time I finally did make the leap to another manufacturer, I had suffered in terms of my rating a little bit. It had come down to 4.2 from 4.3. And by that time, I said, no, I really do need to move on to a different manufacturer and have this solved once and for all. Now, the positive thing is once I moved to that next manufacturer, things have been really good. And I've moved from 4.2 all the way to 4.4. And I got the seller's choice badge and all of that kind of stuff. That's been good. But I would say that's something, if I had to give some advice to somebody, like, don't give somebody a million chances. If something isn't working, sometimes you have to be a little bit cutthroat.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to manufacturers, it is starting a new relationship altogether.
Yeah. So that's part of the apprehension is like, a lot of things are going good with one person and you don't want to have to then start over with somebody else over one thing. And so you're hoping that they'll fix it. But in the end, it didn't work out that way. And I wish I had made the leap sooner.
Well, that's great to hear that the rating is actually better than it was before. And probably even better that just the whole manufacturing thing is already resolved coming into the marketplace. So I'm sure buyers will be happy to hear that.
Yeah, and it's really good to have a good relationship with your manufacturer. And yeah, this was like something that works, that you always make sure you have a good relationship with your manufacturer. Like even when I moved to the new manufacturer, obviously the trend was upwards. Like I mentioned, we moved from 4.2 to 4.4, but you're always getting feedback from customers on certain things that they would like improved. And so we've even moved to a second edition with the new manufacturer. And so you're constantly getting feedback. and you're constantly trying to adjust and talk to the factory and seeing how they can improve. And so, yeah, you're just kind of having a good relationship with your manufacturer is something that's really important. And I'm lucky in this case, I have a good one.
Yeah, this is actually probably the most that I've discussed relationship with manufacturer, or I guess time spent with a manufacturer. Is I think the assumption is it's kind of like this for you too now, but it is kind of like click the purchase button and get more inventory and repeat. Can you describe, though, the amount and the type of work you do for this business? Do you feel like you spend a bit more closely with the manufacturer, and then can you describe the other type of work you do for this business?
Yeah, for sure. So there's not a lot of day-to-day work with the factory. I mean, everything kind of put in the order and they start making it. And yeah, when I have the feedback from time to time, it's really good that I can share it with them. And I have a direct contact to the factory owner and as well as the line manager. So it's good to be able to give them that feedback, but it's not something like we're constantly adjusting. So it's like, every couple months you'll see, is there anything that people are saying, any feedback that you're getting? And if there's something that comes up, that you see it come up, not just a one-off, but you're always kind of every few months kind of adjusting that. But that's not like a day-to-day thing where I have to spend a lot of time talking to the factory. It is a pretty hands-off business in the sense that most of the time, the day-to-day, there's not a lot to do, to be honest. So my main thing on a day-to-day is I just check my inventory, make sure I have enough inventory in stock. I have my inventory, some of it at 3PL, third-party logistics. So I have to drip that in because there are kind of limits there at the FBA. And so just have monitoring that and then checking my sales and checking my conversion rate, checking my feedback, just kind of monitoring my stats and then making sure I have enough inventory and then generating the labels for the shipping labels, passing that on to the 3PL. They apply those labels and they hand it off to UPS and then UPS brings it to Amazon. So yeah, it works pretty smoothly actually. And only times that there's like more to do. And that's why I didn't just put, 1 hour a week, kind of brought it to 2 hours or more, just because there are some times of the year when you have an order getting ready from the manufacturer that's ready to depart. And you have this a few times per year, right? Probably 4 or 5 times a year, you're going to have, some cargo ready to leave. And that requires some coordination, right? You got to coordinate with the factory, make sure everything's going according to plan. You got to coordinate with logistics providers. And yeah, so there's some times where you kind of have to stay up late, depending on your time zone, to make sure everything is getting sorted with all the parties that are involved in different time zones and stuff. But that only happens a few times a year, but it does take some time to do that planning and getting kind of logistic quotes and talking to logistics, just kind of managing all of that. It's not difficult, but that would be the only time where there's something that's more than just, hey, checking my stats and whatnot.
Right. And to be fair, what you're describing is what every Amazon FBA owner has to do, more or less. Except I would say one major difference here is, as you mentioned, you don't run PPC. So that's not required to operate this business.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely a growth opportunity, kind of low-hanging fruit there. I never delved into it, but there are people out there that know a lot about PPC or want to hire somebody to do PPC. That would be a really kind of, as they say, low-hanging fruit.
That actually is exactly the question I was going to ask. So if you were to keep the business, what are some ways you would try to grow it? So we have PPC.
Yeah, that would be the first one to go into first. Like I said, if you have experience with that, either you're an existing seller and so you know your way around that, or you want to hire some of these brand managers that can help with that kind of PPC. If you're experienced on that, you could definitely grow your profit just based on that. Because right now, all the traffic is just organic. People search for something. They get to by the magic of the search button, they get to my listing page. And then they make their purchases. So yeah, adding extra traffic through PPC, number one. Number two, I would say I have just one SKU in this niche, this eco-friendly product. And yeah, it's a product, as I mentioned, people take to work and to school. And I think now I would say, a few established players. I think I described before, like why I broke into it, because of at the time there weren't as many established players and I thought there was room for me. Now it's like the players in this niche are quite, we probably share a consistent amount of the sales, which is great, but they have launched other SKUs. So different sizes and shapes of the product. Yeah, just like different features and like different maybe accompanying accessories, bags and stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity. You don't have to be overly creative. You could just look at my main competitors for this product and see what their product lines are and do some investigation and see whether or not you can offer something similar as well and add that. Well, my brand will be your brand if you end up purchasing this. And yeah, I would say that's kind of also low-hanging fruit. Find what my competitors in this niche, the other things that they are selling, and that would be a great opportunity for growth. You could also move into, this is eco-friendly niche, which is a niche that's growing and people are kind of moving away from the whole plastic thing. So you could sell other things under the same brand and in the eco-friendly realm, and it's kind of a very easy sideway move. So that's something definitely you could do. Fourthly, I would say you could look at website sales. I don't sell anything on my website. It's a very basic one-page website. I just get a couple customers per year that somehow find the website. And so, yeah, you could definitely start direct sales on the website and grow the business that way. And lastly, wholesaling. And another thing that I used to get a lot before the pandemic, or not a lot, but a few per year, I would get a few inquiries, 3 or 4 inquiries from people wanting to buy the product wholesale. And they would find me through the website. So they would send me an email, hey, I want to know what your wholesale pricing is. I never bothered to go down that route. Just always kind of kept it something that I might consider in the future. So I anticipate now that, pandemic's kind of going in the rear view mirror a little bit, that those wholesale inquiries will start to come in again now that the world is sort of recovered. So yeah, those would be the one: wholesaling, website sales, different products in the same kind of eco niche, and then different SKUs within this actual product, like other sellers are selling and my competitors. And yeah, and the PPC. Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, very nice. And at least 2 of your answers, I felt like, address this next question. If you want, you can just revert back to those. But what do you think are the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
There's not much risk. I would say there's always some risk involved to having a Amazon business. They're always updating their policies and you have to fall in line. But, that's the risk that us Amazon sellers have to live with. And generally it works out okay. But yeah, you have to keep on the pulse of that if there are any changes or updates. Yeah, that's pretty much, I would think. I mean, I'm somebody, my SKU got affected by the pandemic because, as I mentioned, it's something that people take to work and to school. And so if there were to be a second pandemic, then I would get affected again. But I think that's highly unlikely. I think we've kind of moved past the pandemic and this is kind of the new normal. And so now things are returning to what they were like before.
Yeah, cool. So final housekeeping questions. First is, how much support are you willing to offer a new buyer?
I'm willing to offer standard amount. I mean, I wanted this person to get it and feel comfortable. And yeah, I'm totally on board with offering support. I think there's not a lot to know. It kind of runs itself. I'm sure if I was in their position, I would appreciate some assistance in the early going. So I think 30 days would be more than enough. I think that's kind of the standard, but if they need more, I would for sure take their call and that would be fine. I mean, I prefer voice versus typing. Not a fan of typing too much. So, if it's a really small answer, I might email them back, but if not, I might just call you back if you email me a question. So put that as a disclaimer.
That's good to know. Okay. And would you be willing to commit to a non-compete?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And are you open to something like an earnout?
I would say on the surface, I'd be willing to listen to anything that comes my way. My preference is no. I would prefer a non-earnout situation. And the reason being is that I feel like at this price point, it's already a really good deal. And that's because I've seen a nice recovery in the last 5 months since things have opened up. And we've seen a nice steady growth in terms of sales when I compare to summer of 2019 levels. Like it's just keeps growing. So like give you some maybe extra data, but I think it's helpful. It's like, so in May, I sold 39% of 2019 levels. And then in June, we got to 43%. And then in July, 58% and of 2019 levels. August, 68, September, 80% of 2019 levels. So we're now recovering to pre-pandemic levels. And so my earnings are already weighed down by the fact that, there's a lot of, months in there that include kind of, what things were like during the pandemic. So in my perspective, they are getting a really good deal already. So that I would say, I would take that into consideration when I'm thinking about earnout versus non-earnout. But yeah, so like I said, my preference is definitely no earnout, but totally willing to listen to offers.
Sure. And your explanation just now, I felt like was pretty spot on with this next question, which is putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer. Why do you think this is a business worth buying? I think you answered that pretty well, but is there anything else you wanted to say regarding the business itself?
Yeah, I guess if I known the question was coming, I probably would have waited. But yeah, so basically what I'm saying is this is a niche that was, you can clearly see that it was impacted by people not sure if they were going to work or school. And now that's kind of situation in the world has rectified itself. We've seen, very sharp increase, getting back to those pre-pandemic levels. And from a buyer's perspective, like my stats are kind of still have a lot of that, prior data weighing things down. So for them, that's a positive in their court. So yeah, if I was in their shoes, I would like this would be a business that I would definitely look into as a recovery play.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we just went through a lot of this business. Is there anything you'd like to add that you think I might have missed during the interview?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Do you have any more questions for me?
No, I think that was very thorough. So I'll just wrap this up here then. Ali, thank you so much for sharing your story and joining us on today's episode. And I hope your business is purchased in the near future and by the right buyer.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to interview me. And yeah, all the best.
Yeah, you as well. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 56421. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.